Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're still live streaming here at E3. Hello, Michael.
Hi, how are you?
How are you?
I'm great.
This is a special treat for me because you are here. You are from Monolith Productions. You're the design director there. And you are showing off Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor. I almost got the title wrong. I'm sorry. Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor. It's coming to PS4. And do you wanna kick off this footage that we're looking at, or maybe give us a little background about the game first?
Sure.
All right.
So Shadow of Mordor, it's an open-world, third-person action game set entirely behind enemy lines in Mordor.
All right. Awesome.
Taking place in between Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. So after his defeat in The Hobbit, Sauron's return, he's come home to Mordor.
Spoilers, dude. Come on.
Sorry, it's only a movie spoiler. It's not a spoiler.
Everyone needs to walk away. The movie's a ruin.
Good. So he's come back, and you play Talion, a ranger of Gondor who was stationed at the Black Gate on the frontiers of Mordor when Sauron returned.
Which is safe. It's a safe area. There's no harm will befall him, right?
It has been safe for about 2,000 years.
Okay.
On the night Sauron comes home, all of that changes.
Okay.
The rangers are slaughtered, Talion's family is killed, indeed he dies, but Sauron's return also awakens an ancient spirit of vengeance, and that's something we're really excited to get more into the lore, because this spirit has a very close relationship with Sauron and with the history of Middle-earth.
Okay, and that's a secret.
The identity of the Wraith is a secret.
Don't tell us.
It's going to be awesome. No more spoilers.
But
this spirit resurrects Talion, and then together they pursue the Dark Lord behind enemy lines.
Okay.
And
awesome.
that's where we find ourselves here. This is a new region we're revealing, new part of the open world, which is the Sea of Nirn. So many hundreds of miles from the Black Gate, many hours of gameplay, deeper into the game as well.
Okay.
Being drawn here. And this is a much more lush, rich, fertile part of Mordor, so very different to what people have probably seen.
Yeah, it's totally not what you'd be expecting from, you'd expect the barren, the deserted, the dark, but
this is, Sauron has to feed these vast armies he's going to build. So slaves are going to till these fields, they're going to farm these fields, fish these seas, and this is how he's going to sustain his forces, so that makes it the perfect place to get behind enemy lines and really disrupt his plans for building his army. And actually, this is something else we're showing you here as well. Big part of our game, because of the power of the Wraith, you can dominate, bend your enemies to your will, use fear against them, but you can also dominate the beasts of Mordor. So this guy's a Graug. It's one of the alpha predators of Mordor, sort of massive monster, eats trolls for breakfast. So Mordor
literally eats them?
Literally eats trolls for breakfast. And so he's one of these beasts that you're able to bend to your will and really take the fight to your enemies as you build your army behind enemy lines.
Awesome. And the control, the domination that Talion asserts over the Mordor forces, I mean, that plays a central role in everything, not only narrative, but also in gameplay, also in strategy, right? I mean, there's a bit of a mind game behind, like, who you're taking over and how you get to Sauron.
Yep. So the Wraith, as I say, is a very powerful figure, and in some ways, their plan, their goal is similar to Saruman's. The way to take on Sauron is to beat him at his own game, is to build an army of Uruk-hai and to actually challenge the Dark Lord directly by doing that. So the Wraith sort of has something in common there.
Okay.
And in the same way, you've been drawn into the Sea of Nirn by this new character we're introducing, Queen Marwen. She's the leader of the remnants of the Gondorians forces that settled there millennia before, and she holds the key to revealing some of the secrets of the power of the Wraith, but also increasing that power so you really can do so much more than just hunting and killing your enemies. You can actually bend them to your will, build your own army behind enemy lines.
Cool. I mean, there's some stealth elements to this game as well. It's not just all about upfront action, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's something we put a lot into. It's a real focus. We wanted to make kind of a next-gen living world, like a very dynamic ecosystem. So these monsters running around are part of that, but it also feeds into our core gameplay. So we've got our melee combat, but it bleeds really seamlessly into stealth. So you can enter a fight out of stealth, do a brutal stealth kill that ups your hit counter, lets you lead straight into a combo attack, which leads into range, which lets you leap on one of these monsters and flee out of it. So just, constantly able to be surprised, and new things can happen, things you haven't seen before. And of course, that then works with the Nemesis system because the enemies themselves get surprised by what's happening and react to these surprises in the environment. So, you know, I really want to make a world where players create their own stories. But secondly, where it is a living world, so that means by changing things, by crafting your own enemies, by making your own stories, that really can ripple out and influence the world.
I feel like you've talked about this a lot. You know the game well.
I have, spent a lot of time thinking, and as a team, you know, we've really, from the beginning of this game, we knew that we wanted to do something different, something people hadn't done before, and enemies seemed like such a place to innovate and bring something new. Because so often, you know, so much of what you do in an action game is confront and face these enemies.
Yeah.
And so we didn't want the grunts to be cannon fodder, and we didn't want the bosses just to be someone replanted in the game. We wanted really to let people create their own experience.
And so do you want to actually give our audience like a little bit of an insight into the Nemesis system, just in case, because you guys just released a trailer for that recently, right?
Yep.
Do you want to maybe go into a little bit more detail about how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the great things with the Nemesis system, and this is what we're seeing at E3, we can talk about it till we're blue in the face, but...
So let's do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Blue is our color.
It's when people, blue in the face, that's also what the race domination does, so that's very appropriate. But it's when people get their hands on it and experience it that they realize this really is my story, I'm creating this. But basically, the core things about how it works, one is any enemy in the world can make his way up from being a lowly grunt, you know, a guard, a guy who's out on patrol, a guy who's beating on slaves. If he works his way up, kills one of his bosses, kills the player, manages to succeed at a mission, he can get promoted. And then he's in the hierarchy, he's a captain. And then once he's in there, these guys are actively hunting each other, challenging each other, proving themselves, competing for dominance. So, you know, like we see at Tirithungal in Lord of the Rings when they get into Mordor, it's an incredibly brutal and competitive society. So these guys fight and battle and strive amidst their way up against themselves and against you. And as they level up, they get new powers, they get personality traits. You know, if you burn a guy, he could get a burning hatred against that, or he could become terrified. So their personalities adapt, the jobs they have adapt, their relationships to each other. So it's just this hugely dynamic system that kind of makes it into a social network, I guess, that you can get in and mess with.
So this is like the Twitter or Facebook of Mordor. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. It's
confirmed here on stage.
Yeah.
What's it like working with literature and with lore that is just iconic throughout the entire world and really one of the, you know, grandfathers of fantasy? I mean, what's that like for the team?
It's a huge privilege and a huge responsibility. And also it's incredibly, it's stressful, but we're also massive fans as well, so it's exciting. The thing with Tolkien and Middle-earth, it's almost like working with history or myth. You know, the depth and the attention to detail makes the world so rich, so detailed. There's so many stories you could tell that you kind of get the best of both worlds. You can draw on all this amazing canon, all this amazing lore, use that to make it feel very detailed, make it feel very real, but it's also big enough that you can tell a standalone story as well. You don't just have to retell what people have seen before, or, you know, we don't have to tell a side story. We can create and craft a really epic standalone story.
And I like that you guys have kind of embraced the challenge of telling your own story. I mean, obviously you have a framework to work with and a lot of lore to tap into. But I mean, Talion was created for this game, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He's very, very authentic to, I think, the themes and the lore of Tolkien. Like, you know, to be honest, very much a starting point of inspiration was Boromir. Was that Boromir, the Council of Elrond, and he had the ring, and he was like, this is a gift. We should use the power of the enemy against him. The only way to take on the Dark Lord is through ruthlessness. And Boromir's a tragic character, but he's also ultimately a heroic character. He's someone who was willing to do whatever it takes for what he believes was the right thing. And those themes of using power and where that's going to lead, that was something we're really interested to explore. But taking a character who was also original within those themes. And I think where Talion's maybe a bit different from Boromir and Aragorn is he's not someone noble. He's not highborn. He's not in line to the throne. He really was, you know, someone who was just trying to build his life on the frontiers of the kingdom, who's then been drawn into these huge events. So I guess in that way he's a little bit like Sam or Frodo. So he's kind of a
I like how you just made up your mind there. You're like,
yeah, no, just that connection that he really is like this everyman who just wanted to live his life and gets sucked into these vast forces beyond his control.
Awesome. Wait, so I'm sorry, we've kind of been ignoring the footage a little. I just like talking about Lord of the Rings. Yeah. Can you tell us about this environment and what Talion is up to right here?
So where we are here, as far as I can tell, because I haven't been looking at either. So
Surprise!
This is a stronghold. The strongholds are the fortresses, the cities, the towns. These places are really dangerous because these are where there's going to be concentrated groups of enemy bosses. So there's Rukdug the Thirsty.
He's thirsty.
He's thirsty. From the sound of his showdown, he has a bit of a taste for the orc grog.
Okay.
And so we can see, this is an example, there's a mass of these guys, these named enemies living here. So we can spread a bit more chaos. Jessica's unleashing some of the Caragors. Okay, so he's still got his wits about him enough to freak out and run. But the other guy there, he's a hunter, so he's actually enraged. So we can see the environment's changing up. That's influencing one guy to flee for his life. Another guy's actually going to fight harder. So you can create all this chaos in the environment, and there's a lot of different ways that can obviously play out. But then, however these guys survive, so if he gets enraged because he's seen the Caragor, manages to take you down, he's going to remember that, be more powerful next time. The guy who flees and runs, he's still going to live to fight another day. He's going to remember that and call it out as well. So, you know, you're really the rock that's getting dropped into the pond where the sort of ripples are really going out and shaping how this place is going to evolve.
How does the team keep track of so much? Like, how do they keep track of so much information? I mean, I feel like all these characters are being uniquely affected in different ways at different times, and then as you say, they might go on and fight another day. One might run and get eaten by a giant monster. I mean, how do you approach kind of keeping track of all that and cataloging all that? I mean, that's all kind of dynamic information.
It's dynamic,
it's huge.
And it is huge, and it was kind of probably insanely ambitious, and I don't know if we would have taken it on if we knew how insane it was at the start. But I think the interesting thing is creating the systems was one thing, and you know, everyone did an amazing job on building those foundations. But what the systems gives you is just randomness, and that can be cool or not. What was really amazing is the process of editing, getting the writing in, getting the specific roles, getting the actual showdowns, you know, mapping the traits. So although it's dynamic, it's not just totally random. We really are crafting guys who actually are characters, who have personalities, who have memories, who are kind of memorable. And so that kind of second half of the process of refining and editing and testing, that was where the kind of magic came out, I guess. That
awesome.
you know, we're really, really proud of it, to be honest.
Fantastic. Well, as you should be. Because that sounds like just 4,000 Excel documents with tons of orc names in it. Now, that would freak me out. Just
every single part, the animation was a huge challenge. The character art's a huge challenge. The writing's a huge challenge. The game balance is a huge challenge. The system of the living world, the level design. So every one of them individually is hard, but then the work the team did to actually coordinate and synchronize putting all of those separate things together was just, you know, amazing. Just an amazing team effort.
Absolutely. Can you describe what we're seeing here?
So this is interesting. I'm not sure what happened just previous to this, if it was,
I was distracting
a mission or if Jessica actually got killed. But, so these guys are actually conducting missions. They're living in the world. Okay, that's an execution. This guy, the Fearless, he's an executioner. His mission was accomplished. He's going to level up, grow in power. That was the guy we saw who survived and lived to fight another day from that previous battle. He lives and grows as a result. The Darky grows. So these guys actually, through going on missions, they're challenging each other, slaughtering each other, leveling up, getting new strengths and weaknesses, and also taking on jobs as bodyguards, or, you know, to the various war chiefs as well. So you know, one of the key parts of the loop of playing the game is gathering information, so getting the intel and learning the strengths and weaknesses of your target. So it's kind kind of two ways we've approached that. One, your enemies can be brutally tough. They can be really strong. And if you want a challenge, you want like the ultra hard mode, go headlong at them. It's going to be as challenging as you could hope for. But if you invest the time, gather the intel, learn their strengths and weaknesses, there's always a way to take them down as well. So, you know, it's really important to support that sort of different spectrum of how people want to be able to play as well.
So it sounds like your design team kind of enabled a lot of different types of players to play this game. I mean, it's not really for one specific type of action or RPG fan. I mean, it kind of can be molded into a way that they want to play.
Yeah, and that's the spectrum. And again, you know, that's a lot of just usability testing and a huge amount of feedback. But I think, you know, really at heart, we're an action game, so we really wanted to support that as the core pillar.
Of course.
We wanted to have it be challenging as well, because it's only meaningful to take down these nemesis enemies if they can be very powerful. So we needed to make them hard, but then we also wanted to reward people for, you know, gathering the information and playing and planning as well. So it really does, you know, support that spectrum of different ways people want to play.
You want to talk about some of the combat system that we have?
Oh yeah, so this is great. So this guy, he's a nemesis enemy, named enemy. He's been weakened. As a result, the wraith powers that you have let Jessica grab him, dominate, bend into her will, and then we have a whole bunch of choices.
Okay.
We can send death threats, so we can actually let him live. He can go and tell his boss that we're coming for him, so you can actually warn your enemies you're coming after them. They'll train, they'll be prepared, they'll get even tougher, they'll hang around with a gang, be even more cautious, so you can actually make the fight even harder, but get better rewards and more legendary runes to upgrade your weapons when you take them down. You can kill them, you can command them. So in this case, this bodyguard can actually lead us to one of the war chiefs and create, so that will actually create a new mission within the open world. So it's almost a mission editor, but embedded into the gameplay and through the game systems, rather than kind of separated as a separate application.
How would you say, what's the balance like between sort of the supernatural element that Talion has, and then kind of the more physical element, the human element that he has? And in terms of combat, how did you guys balance that out?
I think one of the things that's kind of worked out really nicely in the game, the early game, when you start, so Wraith doesn't even know its own identity yet. Then I think it starts out as a more purely physical game, more purely physical action game. And then you've been playing that for a long while, and then we meet Queen Mao, and we get introduced to the fact that we have so much more power at our disposal to bend these enemies to our will. And it's almost like the second half of the game almost feels like the sequel to the first half, because you've had this kind of awesome action game, and then it really changes up a lot, and we open up a whole, you know, new spectrum of strategic opportunities and powers, and sort of grow that as well. So
awesome. Well, I think we're almost out of time. Cool. Do you have a parting message for our audience, my friend?
You know, I think the thing we're so excited about at E3, so excited to, you know, get to show people the game, is that every single time we show it, it's going to be different. Every single time anyone gets their hands on it, gets to play it, is going to be different. When they get to buy it, it's going to be different. So, you know, just always come back and check it out again, and really hope people enjoy it.
All right, awesome. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. I am 122% excited about this game, so best of luck to you guys as you head towards launch. Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor is coming to PS4 and PS3, or just...
Yep.
Okay, PS4 and PS3. Thank you so much again. Enjoy the rest of your... PlayStation